Chris here from the Reticent, coming to you from my horror room. One of my few passions, just collecting horror films, so I thought I'd show you guys a little bit of what I do with some of my other free time. A while back, a couple of you asked some pretty interesting questions as I was setting up for this interview, and I thought your questions were far better than the ones I was going to get asked, so I decided to set up my own interview and answer your questions. So, here we go. This is my greatest accomplishment. Well, I suppose the greatest thing I've accomplished has been teaching several of my students that other people might have given up on. You know, you can't save everybody, but I've been able to help in a media way a few people to go on and do something with their lives, and you know, none of my piddly little songs or albums are going to compare to directly helping someone. The longest I ever worked on a piece of music without using it, 10 years. I've had this like half of a song in my head since I was in a band called The Torture Cell, and I had it in my head through the Werewolf days, and one of the riffs was around when I recorded Hymns, and it was still there for More Mortem, and it was still a possibility with Reticent, so I don't know that I'll ever use it. I keep thinking of, of ways to use it, and I'll pull it out every now and then and work on it. I guess you'd assume that a riff that had been developed for 10 years would, be wonderful, but it's probably not. It's probably a good thing that it's never been fully used. Nothing's forever. I get unfairly compared to Maynard James Keenan, and I say it's unfair because I will never be as good as he is, so I think it's unfair for anyone to compare us two. It's, he's so far up here, and you can't even see where I am. But I do draw a little bit of inspiration from, but not as much as people might think, even though we have a similar style. I'm a big fan of Greg Graffin from Bad Religion. He's the rich use of harmony, and he's got a truly unique sounding voice. Apart from the fact that he's a very intelligent guy, he writes wonderfully insightful lyrics. Oftentimes with a great sense of humor that I can't get away with, and he's really great with melody, and that's something I aspire to. I aspire to write something that would be on the level of like a Greg Graffin vocal line. I think that's really something, Some of my other inspirations are people like ICS Vortex, and I'm sure not a lot of people would expect that one, but I buy anything that he's involved with vocally. I could listen to him sing all day. He brings such a presence and power to music, and he's another person who just, his use of harmony is so rich and it's just wonderful to listen to. And you know, I haven't really found anything he's done that I haven't liked. There have been some things I like more than others, but I don't think there's anything he's done that I've just said, ah, this sucks, I don't like it. Other than that, believe it or not, James Hetfield of Metallica, I have to throw in there because, you know, I started listening to Metallica in the 80s, and, you know, that was one of the first things I tried to sing along with as a kid. You know, I just wanted to, I didn't even necessarily want to sound like him, I just really enjoyed singing along. And, you know, he's another person who really had an ear for melody. And I guess I'm remiss if I don't mention Mick Ackerfeld and Steven Wilson. I haven't listened to them much in the past, you know, bit of time. And again, I know it's the Reticent and Opeth get compared, and again, it's just like Mary James Keenan. It's totally unfair. You know, McHale up here, me way down here. But I do draw some inspiration from, you know, from all of those guys. There is a connection between, you know, the Reticent and my life and my philosophy and as an educator. You know, the question's real right when they say, do they influence each other? And absolutely, because you know, especially on the last record, you know, I had taken a new job and was teaching a whole new group of kids in a whole new area, and was just kind of getting into a new realm of my profession. And so I think that some of the more, I guess, less self-absorbed kind of stuff can be found on that last record. You know, with hymns and Amor Mortem, you know, I'm directly dealing with me. And as when you're an educator, you're not, you know, you can't really feel things the same way that other people can. I guess I should say publicly. You know, these folks depend on me to lead them, to inspire them, to help them to, you know, do all these kinds of things. And if I'm bringing a lot of emotional baggage with me, I'm not really serving them in that capacity. You know, I'm you know, using them as a sounding board. And so, you know, a lot of these things came from just, you know, welled up emotions and things where, you know, where am I gonna put it? So as far as how they influence one another further, especially from a philosophy standpoint, you know, if I'm trying to get people to be creative, expressive, whatever, you know, explore music, I have to do the same thing. And I think that more recently, that philosophy of my day job has informed what I've been writing, because, you know, you can see it from the last two records, and you'll definitely see it on the next one. The progression is going just more and more towards trying to push the boundaries, challenge myself. If I didn't have to work a little bit and sweat a little bit to make this, then, you know, where's the journey? What's it for? And so as a musician, I'm trying to make sure that I'm living the I suppose code I try to get my students to live by. It's not that, you know, the Reticent's never going to put out a necrophagist album. I'm just not that good. but I am going to try to do the best that I can do. And if, you know, at this point in time the best I can do is here, well, in the next album I've got to up the ante, and whether that's stretching myself vocally, stylistically, compositionally, you know, or just virtuosically. I mean, you know, pushing my drumming or playing or whatever to some other degree. And it doesn't, you know, that doesn't of course necessarily mean speed, maybe complexity. You know, I think that that's an important thing. You know, there are plenty of bands that put out the same album a million times and just put different cover art on it. And, you know, for better or for worse, I don't really want to do that. I don't necessarily want to reinvent myself every 3 years, but as I said, as an educator of musicians, if I just keep my students playing the same pieces over and over again, they're always going to be right here. And, you know, where's the fulfillment in that? So, you know, I guess I'm trying as best I can to practice what I preach. I don't know that there was a time that I didn't really want to be associated with music. I mean, I got involved in playing music, period, as a child, you know, elementary school. My first instrument was the viola, then the clarinet, and the saxophone, and ended up in the percussion realm, having to learn, you know, snare drum and bells and then drum set and all this kind of stuff, and then from there bass and guitar and piano, and then in college, you know, woodwinds and brass and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that I ever thought of it as being a career. You know, I always knew I'd never be a rock star. You know, my goal was to make it, and what I meant by that was just, can I get by just playing music and writing music and all that stuff? Because I mean, the absolute happiest I am is when I'm in the studio. That is me at my most complete. You know, just the other day, we were at band practice, and my bass player Cliff was talking about how his favorite place to be is on stage. You know, he plays with the Reticent, and he's got his own you know, Metallica tribute band, and then he's kind of a freelance bassist and plays with anybody who really needs anybody. He just loves to play, and he lives on stage. And you know, I live to play in the same way, but on the other side of the coin, I just want to live in the studio. You know, if people love my music enough to where I could make enough to just put out record after record after record and just live recording and writing and everything, that's all I would do. I don't know you'd be able to get me out to even play a show. Because you know, anyone who's ever seen me play before, whether it was a good performance or bad performance, you know, I'm always like, oh man, that was terrible and this was awful. You know, I'm very negative on the shows, and almost always it's because, you know, I'm messing something up. So, you know, in the studio, I get to be this psycho-perfectionist, and, you know, I'm allowed to not stop till it's right. And it's really wonderful when I get it on the first try. But if something's not working and I can perfect it, and I don't have to show it to anybody until it's right where I want it, that's the best place for me. So I always knew that I wanted to do that kind of thing. There's no money in that, though. I mean, you can't live off that. You know, it's just not in the cards for at least for people like me. You know, if people ever actually halfway like my music and I get to that point, that'll be great. That'll be the greatest gift anyone could ever give me. But you know, at the same time, I mean, I am getting to do that a little bit right now by just, you know, enough people are buying my records to allow me to do another one and do another one, and you know, that's pretty amazing. So in a lot of ways, I mean, I am living the dream that I had. So you know, can't really ask for it. Can a moth be drawn too far from the flame? How does it make me feel? I don't exactly know how to answer that, and I'm sure I've been horribly answering all these questions so far. But I mean, when I'm playing live, if I'm doing it the way I want to and I try to, I'm not really thinking about much, and I don't know that I'm feeling much. I'm feeling whatever it was at that moment when I wrote it. You know, if I play Emancipate live, I mean, I remember exactly where I was when I wrote it. I still remember what it looked like outside. I remember what the air felt like. I remember what was going through my head. And every time I play it, I know exactly what that was. And so it sort of keeps me connected to some of my, you know, in many cases, darker times. And we have a new song that'll be on the next album, which I'm tentatively calling Chronology of My Disgrace. And the song's nicknamed Death is Poetry, but its official title is called The Reply. And we've played that out a couple times live, and you know, people have really dug it, and that's been very gratifying. And it's kind of it's a very angry song, but it's, boy, I don't want to use this term, but it's the only one that's coming to mind. It's kind of passive aggressive. It doesn't sound as angry as it really is, and you know, just like that. I mean, I'm feeling that anger. I mean, when I'm playing, I'm trying to unload a lot of that stuff. You know, I just want to let go of whatever the negative stuff is. And that's pretty much all I want to do. When I'm writing, it's much the same way. In both circumstances, you know, I'm going to be in a highly emotional state, and in both circumstances I'm going to be kind of a perfectionist. You know, I want it to be really good, and what sucks is being me and being a perfectionist is that I'm not really that good, so it's never perfect. And it's always, well, you know, yeah, I wrote this, but, you know, it could have been better, this, that, the other thing. So, I mean, the only way to avoid just endlessly rewriting myself to death is to just try to lock into whatever that emotion is and try not to think, and just let it come out. Let the tools that I've got in my bag of tricks compositionally just sort of just take over. And, you know, like there's a song I wrote recently, I don't even have a title for it. It's very kind of first album sounding, you know, real slow and dark and morose and very, very sad. And, you know, I didn't think at all. I didn't pick like a key or anything. I sort of picked it up and I just kind of took a deep breath and I started playing, and it sort of went wherever it went. And, you know, I've played long enough to know what chords will do what. I know enough about music theory to know if I want this effect, I can go to this kind of chord. So I just did it on instinct, and I haven't really touched it much because it was very pure. It's not a, you know, brilliant song by any stretch, but it's very raw and it's very true. And so, I mean, that's pretty much like that's what goes through my mind when I'm writing. As far as teaching, I mean, you know, you can see the last question for that, I think. You know, I'm just trying, I want to create in someone else a love for and a use for music, and a respect for music, you know, of all kinds, and, you know, reverence for it, all those kinds of things. I mean, there's way too much that goes through my head if I'm teaching somebody, so I don't really quite know how I can answer that accurately. And nothing comes demands and personal artistic needs. Well, I don't know if there are any commercial demands for me. No one knows who I am. I mean, you know, I don't suppose there's any commercial demand on me. You know, when I get reviewed, now I got to be reviewed by quite a few folks, and I mean, some of them were, you know, like YouTube reviewers like the Album Man, and you know, some of them were magazines like Decibel Magazine, and others, you know, like webzines and websites like Hard Rock Haven and Valley of Steel and all this kind of. And thank all of you, by the way. I got reviewed by a lot more people this time, and I mean, I guess I could take, you know, any of the criticism that they level at me as, well, if I did this, then maybe I'd be more successful. And, you know, some of the criticism I don't really know. Some of that stuff I can't respond to. I mean, Decibel was really nice to me, but they made a reference to my Tool fandom being too present, and I mean, I wonder if it would have if it changes anything if they know that I haven't listened to Tool very much in the past few years. I still have, but I haven't. You know, I mean, their last new album came out several years ago, and I've just been listening to, you know, everything from Aeon to Orphan Land to Ocean to Miles Davis. You know, I mean, you know, during the conception of the last record, and so it's one of these things of, well, I mean, if I'm playing this and it sound, you know, a certain sound comes up, and my Jeremy Golden, the guy who owns Heaven and Hell Records, his suggestion was that there's not a lot of bands out there that are playing the style I'm kind of playing, and because I didn't set out to, you know, if I was in the death metal band, I want to be the most brutal thing ever, and so I already know the sound I want. I want it to be, you know, fast and hard hitting like this, and I want to have, you know, blast beats that, you know, rival Nile and Necrophages and everything, and I want to have these, you know, breakdowns that, you know, are like Cannibal Corpse. I mean, you know, so you're kind of trying to blend several people that have already done something. And I'm not saying that I'm wholly original, because I'm not. I'm just sort of doing what I do. I'm just playing what I want to play. In many cases, some of that's just going to be a flat-out kind of, yeah, this is a Cannibal-style riff, or this is going to be a, you know, kind of a thrash, straightforward riff, or something like that. You know, I don't have a musical goal with this, like maybe other strands in the metal world have, you know, and so because of that, I don't really know that I can have any commercial demand on me, because I'm not really viable. You know, there's not. See, I don't like to call people to listen to my music fans, because I feel like that makes me too arrogant. But I've got a small crowd of people that enjoy what I do, I guess, and you know, I think I'll always be kind of in that niche, because I think the greatest thing that'll ever happen is I'll write a song that's real close to being, oh man, people would love this, and then I'll keep taking left turns, and they'll say, well, I liked it before he was all weird, whatever. But so I mean, this is a very selfish project, and you know, it's all personal artistry, and it's all me and my mediocre crap. You know, just trying to express myself and hoping that some other people get something out of it. You know, I mean, that's the reason to put it out there. I mean, I'm not going to make a lot of money doing this, but if the music I make means something to somebody, and you know, if they're having a tough time and it helps them, or you know, they enjoy it or anything like that, I mean, that's a good thing, and that makes it worthwhile. Someone asked me if you know, would I drastically change a lot of things in order to become commercially viable, and it's a really trendy hipster thing to say, I wouldn't change anything. But that's actually the truth. You know, at least with this project, I mean, if someone came along and said, hey, you know, I want you to drum with this band, we'll pay you, you know, $6 million a year to go on tour and play with these folks, I'd probably go on tour and play. You know, I love music, I want to make it. And, you know, that kind of would free me up to pursue my own selfish desires with the Reticent. But I don't think that I would change this, you know, to fit something, because that's just not what it is. So I don't know that there'll ever be a balance there.